The war in West Asia is spreading fast, and Lebanon is now at the center of a massive escalation. Beirut's southern suburbs have been rocked by powerful explosions after a series of Israeli airstrikes with thick black smoke rising over the city's skyline. Ordered an unprecedented evacuation of the entire southern suburbs of Beirut, an expansion of the war against Iran and its allies. The strikes come as Israel continues its coordinated offensive with the United States 1 week into a conflict that is now spreading across multiple front lines. Lebanon's health ministry said at least 217 people have been killed and nearly 800 wounded in Israeli strikes since Monday.
So far, since Hezbollah chose to join the war and attack Israel, the IDF attacked more than 500 targets in Lebanon, eliminated over 70 Hezbollah terrorists, and carried out 26 attack waves in Beirut. Hezbollah and the Iranian regime are one and the same. They continue to destroy the state of Lebanon and harm the lives of Lebanese residents. The Lebanese government must get rid of Hezbollah and of soldiers of the Revolutionary Guard who operate on its territory. If they won't, we will chase and attack them.
The humanitarian situation is quickly deteriorating too. The United Nations says around 100,000 people have already fled their homes, cramming into shelters as Israel's evacuation orders force entire neighborhoods to empty out. On the ground, the visuals are dramatic. Massive blasts tear through Beirut's southern districts, buildings shaking, sirens blaring, and huge plumes of smoke continuously rising over the city throughout the afternoon. Israel says its air campaign is not just targeting Hezbollah in Lebanon. And as the military escalation intensifies, so is the political rhetoric. US President Donald Trump has now demanded Iran's unconditional surrender, a statement that signals that the war is entering an even more dangerous phase. And joining me live on the broadcast is Elijah J. Magnier, is a war correspondent and analyst. Good evening. Welcome to WION, Elijah. I want to start by asking you, since, you have been observing this entire war since its start, what do you make of this latest statement that has come in from Donald Trump? What would he mean, and what would America mean when they say unconditional surrender by Iran?
Thank you for having me. Since the beginning of the war, we have heard very different announcement from President Trump. At the beginning, he said, at the first day, he said he wants a regime change, and that's it. And then we heard him yesterday saying, I want to participate to the election of the leader of the revolution, which means he wants the system to remain in place, and he wants only to participate to the election, which is never going to happen. But he is basically saying he doesn't want a regime change, and he threw away all the Pahlavi, Crown Prince, the Mek, the Sistan, Baluchistan separatists, the Kurds, everything. So he wants to keep the same regime in place, the same ruling system. And now he's saying he wants Iran to surrender, and we haven't really seen Iran surrendering or stopping his missiles on Israel and on all the Gulf countries, all the US military bases. And according to the New York Times satellite images, all the US bases are either completely destroyed or severely damaged. So it doesn't really fit this with the conditions on the ground when we start suffering from the economy, the price of oil and gas, and soon is going to be a worldwide crisis economically because the Strait of Hormuz is a war theater. So there is not really a closure to the strait because it's an international passage, but we see the Iranians playing their cards, and we don't see really sign of weakness apart from being bombed every single day very strongly. But Iran is 1,640,000 square kilometers. it seems Iran is absorbing these attacks, is ready for that, has evacuated Tehran, and it is fighting back. So for now, this is what we have
Help me
from President
understand
Trump.
this.
And I'm sure...
Would it be then too early to say that Iran has been better prepared strategically to face the adversary? Is it too early at the moment? But, we've also seen the kind of response that Iran has been given. You talked about it yourself, the massive response that has taken the Americans and Israelis by surprise. At this time and at this moment, would it be too early to say that Iran has been better prepared?
Excellent question. If we compare to what happened in June 2025, when the Israelis started bombing Iran, and Iran retaliated after 18 hours on Israel by sending drones that are very slow to cross 1,700 kilometers, and then sending cruise missiles that were all hunted down, and then pick up the pace in a different way on the second day and until 3-4 days later. However, in this war, we have seen in the first hour, Iran launching within the same day 220 missiles and drones, attacking all the US bases, having fresh and updated intelligence information, attacking US personnel in hotels in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, Qatar, and then increasing the attack by flooding the interception system of the Israelis, which means the command and control center is pretty much holding together, launching several missiles from different areas across the Iranian geography, and then start attacking the oil and gas production in the Gulf country. We have not seen a decline of the Iranian response, but we've seen a very well study. That means there is a command and control functioning very well.
And so how much time would you say? The US president say it's 4 or 5 weeks. Some experts say it's going to take a little longer. What is your assessment? How long would this go on?
I think President Trump is not aware that it doesn't depend really on him. It depends on us. The whole world is going to suffer, in particularly Asia and here in Europe, for what is happening. Already we heard the Germans today, the German Chancellor met saying, actually, there is no need to change the regime and we want this to stop. So the first scream is coming from our continent by calling upon the belligerent to stop. So as long as the Americans and the Israelis are going and the Iranians are responding, and they are responding, the war can last for how long they want until the first one, who's going to be considered the loser, will ask for a ceasefire. But I think we are going to surrender first and start putting pressure on everyone to say this needs to stop, and in particularly China and Europe.
All right, so we'll have to wait and see how this moves forward. I'll leave it there. Elijah J. Magnia, thank you very much for speaking with us at WION.
Thank you for having me.